And a young elite Dylan Raiola commits to Nebraska, immediately changes the fan base, changes the discussion. Now, it's on the plan to changing recruiting.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate your Huskers every day. Got a good one for you today. Looking forward to this one. And talking about Dylan Raiola, anytime that name is put into the news and into Husker conversation, it changes the conversation. We will have that conversation here, and then we will be joined by somebody that's familiar with not only Dylan Raiola, but the family. The Raiola family, and can tell us from a Hall of Fame Husker standpoint what all of this means for Husker Nation to have Dylan Raiola commit and how it changes NIL, transfer portal, etc. Lots to talk about in this thing. And then we'll finish up with a little Huskers basketball, because guess what? The Huskers are 12-2. Didn't have that in the pool for 2024, did you? Husker basketball, 12-2. Big win last night at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Thank you for subscribing. If you subscribe, please. You are appreciated. If you have not, please take a moment and hit the subscribe button on the screen. So, one, when you're the top-rated quarterback in the country, and you have offers from every program in the country, every elite program in the country, and you've done the work, you've gone to camps, you've been trained, you've been analyzed and overanalyzed, you've been broken down every mechanic, film study has just been off the chart. And then the conversations that let coaches know what the personality profile is of the young man that you are about to hand the keys to the kingdom, what it stands for. And what Dylan Raiola has done over the course of the few weeks that he has been signed and committed, heading into 2024, there is a different vibe around Nebraska football. Look, I can't explain it to you any differently in that he has changed the temperature of the room by setting a different temperature in the room. In the marketing and branding that is college football, the greatest recruits, I hate to break this news, but the greatest recruits to a program are the players in the program. Coaches can go and sell that what they can do for you, but every college coach can coach. Every college coach can recruit. Every college coach can develop. What happens when you have an elite player who will take to the streets and put in the word of all the quarterbacks, linemen, receivers, defensive backs, etc., that are available to the program, and to say, hey, listen, here's why I chose Nebraska. Here's what this is to me. Here's what it means to me. And imagine having Dylan Raiola talk to any and all of the receivers that he's worked with, trained with, competed with, and against. Having Dylan Raiola say, Nebraska's the place. There's no place like Nebraska. Except for when Dylan Raiola says it, it sounds different. It has different meaning. Listen, Uncle Raiola can say that as it's an offensive lineman. It lands differently when Dylan Raiola says, hey, I'm trusting this program with my future. And I am the future. As a matter of fact, I'm the now. And those things have value. So if you are a 4 or 5 star receiver who you've competed with and against Dylan Raiola at camps, at events, Elite 11, you know how the ball comes off his hands. You hear scouts talk about how talented he is, what the arm level talent is. You've caught passes from him. you recognize that, well, wait a minute, of all the quarterbacks that I could play for, the ball comes off of Dylan Raiola's hands differently than any other quarterback that I played with or been on the field with. And now it becomes a cool kids club. Like, you've literally changed the way top players, elite players, knowledgeable fan bases, big-time scouts, NFL coaches, how they all talk about Nebraska football. It's just different now. And to have him say, you know what I'll do? Uncle Raiola, I will go with you to recruit linemen. Because guess what? When you have a talented quarterback, short on the list, 1A and 1B and 1C. Receiver, running back, big bad dude to protect him. And with Coach Raiola as the offensive line coach for Nebraska, it's much easier for him to walk in the room and the home or the school or the office of a key offensive lineman in the country, a high-level offensive lineman in the country, and say, I'd like to offer you some very important cargo to protect. I want to, this is my family. This is my blood. Not only in Nebraska, but in your nephew. How important is it? And how moving is it to go to any offensive lineman, no matter what position he plays? I would imagine specifically the left tackle kind of blows a little bit. But to say, hey, listen, I want to be, I'm choosing you to trust, to protect my nephew, to protect the future and the now of Nebraska football. And I want you to be the person that when he makes his first touchdown throw, it's you who catches him and lifts him to the sky in a forklift, right? Because that's a thing. And once you can paint that imagery, but also to have Dylan Raiola say to the young man himself, hey, bro, I need you. We need you. Nebraska needs you. Listen, I'm going to plant my flag in Nebraska, and I need somebody that I can go to battle with. I need somebody that has my back, literally has my back. And Dylan Raiola getting on a plane and then giving that power to another high school player changes recruiting. It changes the conversation. Listen, to say that Dylan Raiola getting on a plane and traveling and talking to recruits changes Nebraska football is an understatement. I think it cannot be undervalued. I don't think it can be overstated. This is a big thing for Nebraska football to have Dylan Raiola now become not only a recruiting tool, but the leading pitch man for Nebraska football. All pretty cool stuff. We'll put a pin there and we'll throw it to Rico. But Rico, get us all set and bring us back. But the Husker Hall of Famer, Jay Foreman, will join us when we come back to Locked on Huskers.
Thanks, DP. The last time I was looking for Husker sports tickets, it was really difficult for me to find any type of deal, and finding out seats that had a good view for me and my wife was just, it was very difficult. But when I went to Gametime, it was fantastic. There were great deals, last minute tickets that were reasonably priced, and it let us see exactly how the view would be from our seat. Look, Gametime is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets as well. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy theater, and much more. With zone deals, you pick the section, Gametime picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Back to you.
Welcome back. Thank you, Rico, for sharing the good word. We appreciate you folks making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. You're Huskers every day. And we thank you for subscribing because it means a lot to have you guys get this content each and every day. You're Huskers every day. It's time now to up the game, to elevate a little bit. Let's bring in Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman. And Jay Foreman, kind sir, we were talking about recruiting and the transfer portal and how it's impacted and affected by having Dylan Raiola not only choose Nebraska, but then to decide, you know what, I'm going to go with Uncle, and I'm going to go on the road and tell these, listen, if I've often said this, that the greatest recruiter to a program is not coach, it's the players.
Right.
Like it's having a dude who chooses, like, what kind of club am I joining? Right? Like nobody wants to be a part of a club that they feel like they belong in.
Right.
But if Dylan Raiola is the guy and is committed to it, then you got to go, well, wait a minute, what's happening at Club Nebraska?
Right.
So what does it mean? How did Dylan Raiola committing to Nebraska change the perception and the conversation about Nebraska?
Well, I think, besides the initial pop and the shockwaves that, went through the whole college football landscape, even to the point that, him flipping to Nebraska from Georgia was on Good Morning America, so forth and so on. It was on CNN and all the major networks. So you got to think that's I call it bandwidth, right? So after that, then you say, okay, well, what's next? Well, when you have a young man that's thoughtful enough and then also invested, and I'm going to say this is a key word, invested. He's backing up his words with actions and are helping, the coaching staff and himself, right? Recruiting players here, telling them why he came here. I'm here with you. Came up on his own, as far as the school hadn't started. Went to the basketball game, so he's visible. And then he's there with them to let them experience what Nebraska is outside of football. And then obviously the basketball team did the football team a favor and put on a phenomenal performance. But when you have the number one rated quarterback, one of the top rated players in his class, willing to put actions behind his words, it lets everybody know that it's actually legit. It's not NIL. It's like, okay, this kid really believes in this program, what's going on, and where it could be.
You as a player, let's say you're a free agent in the NFL, but for the sake of this conversation, you're in the transfer portal. You have all the options in the world. What does Dylan Raiola calling you and saying, hey, Jay Foreman, this is what we can do? Where does that rank on the scale? What does that do for the conversation, right? It's a different conversation now that Dylan Raiola is leading the charge.
I always say, no matter, especially if he's calling somebody in his age group, right, his class, or even, guys that are in the portal. So within a year or two of being fresh out of high school, I always say that when lions see each other, athletes see each other, they speak a different language. And so when Dylan's calling up whoever he's able to get in contact with, or meeting with them face to face, or right now they just DM each other, and it's just how they conversate. It means more because it's no different than players talking in the locker room and talking amongst themselves. And you said it, at the very beginning, the best selling product out there is peer to peer, right? And you're getting your stamp of approval because when you are trusting another player or athlete, in this case Dylan Raiola, is that he's putting his reputation on the line as well. It's not from afar saying, hey, go here, but I'm not going to be here. Like, oh, it's a good place, but I'm leaving. Well, I flipped from the two-time defending national champion, which they still are until January 8th or 9th or whatever the game is, to come to Nebraska, be a part of something special, to help build something special. So you're getting somebody to invest in Dylan, the University of Nebraska, and more importantly, his word.
Him getting on the plane and being a part of the recruiting process and part of the conversation, it lands differently if you're Jay Foreman and you're at the crib with your mom and dad, and Coach Raiola walks in and Dylan side by side says, hey, listen, Jay, not only are we doing this, but I'm going to trust you with protecting my greatest asset, which is my family, my blood, and my program.
Right.
How does that impact you as a player for them to come in and Dylan to do that with side by side with a coach in the homes of new players for Nebraska.
It means a lot. If you're an offensive lineman, you coaching for a different reason.
How about that, right?
You automatically invested.
Right.
And when you're the offensive line coach and your nephew is the quarterback, you're even more invested because not only you have to deal with your brother, and they've probably been in plenty of scraps, you got to deal with the dad, you got to deal with, your mom, and then more importantly, you got to deal with Dylan's mother.
How about that?
And so everything's on the line, and that's also a great, I guess you could say, selling point, but it's factual. People are investing their family values, their name and integrity into Nebraska. That's why it's bigger than what people even recognize right now. This is a big, monumental decision that there's multitudes of people that are invested in.
Before I let you get out of here, I have to ask the question because you're familiar with the family. So let Husker Nation know what they're getting in getting another Raiola, getting Dylan Raiola.
Right.
What are we getting?
Well, his dad and uncle were tough, right? Great players, great people, great men, men of faith. I will tell you that. Very honorable men, accountable, very thoughtful, and very humble. It's like when it's football, it's football, and they always say the standard is the standard, and the standard for the Raiola last name is very high, and so what Dylan is right along that lineage, but he's very thoughtful and he's very open-minded. I remember having a conversation with him the Michigan game and just spoke some stuff to him, and he when I saw him a week or two ago, he said, when we had that conversation, I never forgot it. And that lets you know, I mean, the kid's a number one. Listen, I'm Uncle Jay, sure. I'm a former player. He's the number one player at his position. For him to really listen to people and respect people, have a meeting with Coach Osborne and all that type of stuff, that lets you know he's thinking about this at a totally different level. Now, look, he grew up in an NFL locker room, so he's already a step or two ahead. But then for him to apply it, but then also look at things a lot differently, I'll let you know he's a great young man.
Says a lot about what's happening for Nebraska football. Again, I'll celebrate and let you know it's time to celebrate things, or it's a step forward and up. Jay Foreman, thank you, kind sir. We'll have some more news about you in future episodes of Locked On Huskers. We got some things going on here. We'll throw the break. Super producer Rico, if you kind sir, if you would please let him know about FanDuel.
Thanks, DP. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Back to you.
Hey, gang, welcome back to Locked On Huskers. I'm DP. Thank you for doing this. Again, appreciate you making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day on this fine Thursday. We are going to be rock solid the rest of the month, taking you all the way through signing day, through NIL deals, transfer portal news, recruiting news, visits to Nebraska, all of those things we'll talk about. But a big night last night here in Lincoln, Nebraska, where the Husker basketball team, again, Husker basketball has kind of been an outlier. There's been great hope for Nebraska basketball under several regimes, and Fred Hoiberg has asked folks to be patient and to be available for when things turn around, because he was going to turn things around. Well, to date, and it's been a long time since we've been able to say this, but Nebraska improved last night to 12-2. 12-2. Look, there are a lot of things about sports that when you watch somebody struggle and grind, and then they find a way to make things better, and they're doing it the right way. And there's some names for you to be aware of and start to consider. you'll start to think more about Jase Medical and what he does on a 28-point night, 5 of 5 from 2-point land, and you're one of the best mid-range scorers in the country. Don't let his size fool you. He's a great finisher. Juwan Gary, rink master for the country, getting familiar with rink master and what he allows. Josiah Alec and what he does, the Aaron Anderson Verjao of Nebraska basketball, with the right energy, the right defensive energy, high IQ basketball, his ability to defend, great bench, depth, the development of Jamarcus Lawrence and his evolving into a legitimate Big Ten point guard and what he does in play. Bryce Williams, the transfer from Charlotte, and what he brings to it. And he's an offensive assassin, but he's a better defender than given credit for. The depth and the advancement of guys like Sam Hoiberg, being able to get quality minutes, vital minutes, and then helping finish a team that shoots free throws. But this Husker team is a defensive juggernaut, and I don't want to undersell that. While all of the talk and the things that move clicks and views is the shooting, three-point shooting, and the energy and the smile and the passion from which Jase Medical plays, and Rake Mask and his Jokic-like big man play at the top of the key, his ability to finish, great footwork for the big man and what he can do in Big Ten play. Juwan Gary and his alligator attitude of just finishing people no matter what needs to be done. This is an exceptional defensive team. It is the table setter. It is the thermostat in the room. If you wanted to understand what's going on, look at them defensively. What they did, they shook up an Indiana team, took some of their big man play away, and made them look. They had to play elite to get baskets. This was a 4 or 5 pass successful offense for Indiana. That a lot of times, even after the 4th pass, they didn't have a good look. Nebraska's in play, and they're playing together, and they play for each other. And Fred Hoiberg is really good at the messaging. Listen, it's been a long time since Nebraska can actually start to look forward to basketball. Pinnacle Bank Arena was fantastic last night. The crowd was exceptional. The buzz was fantastic. The reaction to it. And listen, I hate to tell the rest of the Big Ten, but as Hova likes to say, please allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Nebraska Doll. And that crowd last night, as good as it was, didn't even have the students. It didn't have the full student section because they don't come back. Pinnacle Bank Arena will become a thing that's talked about in Big Ten basketball for the rest of the season because there's going to be some really good and important basketball being played. Congratulations, Huskers, for your first win over Indiana in 5 years. And let me just say it. You beat Tom Izzo in Michigan State. You beat Mike Woodson in Indiana. Wisconsin and Purdue up next. But what you've done to this point deserves applause. Thank you, Nebraska basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. I appreciate the Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman for coming on. Super producer Rico, thank you, kind sir. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.